Greetings once again. It's April 15th, evening time, Friday, tax day. I haven't been on the air for a few days, and I haven't finished all my work yet. I've been a bit distracted. I got out of sorts. I got a medical condition that's sort of throwing things off a bit and makes me more emotional than I really care to be. But hopefully, if I get cleared this next month, I get things going the way they should be again. And that'd be a lot better off. I also got myself a new puppy, so that's been taking a lot of time. And I'm going to go with that. I also got a warning, and YouTube took down my content. It was only a 5-minute warning. I posted a warning, and I panicked. And I think rightfully so. And I don't think that I said anything that Facebook claimed I was saying. As a matter of fact, I'm not even going to tell you what that was about. But you know, there's some things we're not allowed to talk about here. So it's one of those big topics that are no-nos. I don't think I did that, but I did violate community standards. And I asked them, I didn't think it was a proper standard, to be honest with you, because I believe that they are obligated to post alternative opinions. This is a free speech format in which they're given immunity and autonomy. But the problem is that they're dictating. So when I filed my appeal, I conceded that, perhaps I have done something wrong. Is the minority not allowed to have a voice? Or are they just going to continue to be dictators? Well, you know what the answer was. Appeal denied. They don't give any excuse. I think they ought to lose the immunity. I think the founder of it, who spent $400 million throwing the last election off, I think he ought to answer for that. I'm not going to say anymore. We're not allowed to talk about that either. Well, I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to limit what I do here. And I've also come to the conclusion that I probably am not going to do the Bible studies, but more likely Bible readings. Because I don't think they can censor the Bible itself. But my studies and the particular readings I get from the Bible are quite a bit different than the mainstream and that the alternative Jesus that you've been sold on. So what I'm saying is that the great delusion in 2 Thessalonians, I think it's chapter 4, most versions of the Bible call it a great delusion. And according to Pastor Wiki, that article, the word a, should have been interpreted the great delusion. So there's just one great delusion. And I believe that's the delusion that Christianity has been founded upon, which is based upon a false Jesus. Of course, I'm a little bit advanced in that I know the proper name of Yeshua, and he's the Messiah, not the Christ. The Christ only appears in the Bible a few times. And I've been challenged by some females recently, and that's all I'm going to call them, because they're insisting on this alternative Jesus, which is not Jesus at all. Anyway, I don't want to get in that too much. The website for selling the Bibles is down at the moment. There's something about crawling and the security certificate. I don't really know. But there's going to be a page up, and I'll have the link shortly. And the link will take you to my page with my offerings, which are considerably cheaper than the website as a whole. I do want to report I finally sold a Bible. And of course, he's offering to send me the money. It's not very much, but I just told him to hold on to it. I've got to check things out and make sure accounts are set up properly. So it takes a lot longer than what you think to do things. It always does, especially in today's world where we're hyper-regulated. However, I do want to introduce you to a few topics, a few subjects, so you'll get used to them. The first is psychosocial political warfare. Okay, psychological operations, great deception, social. It is in the social realm. And then political, it comes down to these misguided leaders and misguided movements. But there's another one, and that's psychosocial biological warfare. And in that you have psyops, plus you have the culture war, and then you have true biological warfare. Today it's mostly slow kill technology, which is the way it's been across the last few centuries. You heard me right, centuries. I'm not going to go into that in detail right now. My real concern is that we're about to head into a nuclear war, and it's very possible that that's what we're going to get. Now, I don't know if that's cast in stone or not. You can read the Bible and pull from it whatever you want, really. If you want to project evil into it, you're going to get that back out of it. I assure you that it's best to read it for the overall meaning, the overall stuff. It's best not to drill into one concept too much because we don't understand the context, and we never will. And not until we get a teacher who actually understands the context and can explain it to us, because we're so far removed from the times when that was written that it's just not possible for us to get the proper context. It's just the way it is. My price on these Bibles is cheaper than the main price. That was given to me as a gift. I do apologize to the community for violating standards. I didn't intend to do that. And of course, if we lived in a republic, and we no longer have a republic, then the rights of the minority are protected. And also, if we lived in a republic, we could have real science, because we could have real debates, real challenges, real dialogue. But we're not allowed to have that. And so today it is science by consensus, which is no science at all. That means it's political science. It's science based on the political whims and who's ever in charge. Now, I need to give you 3 concepts, one of which is brand new to me today, and I haven't watched the video yet, Eustace Mullen's video, but he fingers the Neo-Zionists. So I hadn't heard of Neo-Zionists. I heard of Neo-Cons, Neo-Liberals, neither one of which really are true to their roots at all. And right now the Neo-Cons are going off the charts. You might think the Neo-Liberals are in there, but the liberals today are not liberal at all. They don't want to create flexibility, and they want to guide every aspect of our lives. They want to dictate everything to us. They want to regulate things so that life is rough, so it becomes hell on earth. So the liberals today, which are neo-libs, are totally useless. And the neocons are pretty bad as well, because they keep drawing the parallels to the Roman militant society. The United States of America was not designed to be military. It was designed to only influence the neighbors by setting an example. Where did we screw up? We screwed up when we allowed that creature from Jekyll Island to come into existence. And President Woodrow Wilson, the president at the time, lamented, and he is quoted as saying he was very unhappy because he realized that he had destroyed his nation. So the nation's been destroyed, certainly psychologically, certainly socially, certainly politically, and biologically. We've been taking hits we never should have taken. We never should have been suckered into World War I. The guys behind the scenes manipulated that. Had the Federal Reserve not been enacted and created on Christmas Eve of 1913, when there was just there weren't even enough congressmen there to really have a vote. So it was snuck in on Christmas Eve. If we hadn't had the Federal Reserve, we wouldn't be in this war cycle, which continues. And so we have to take on debt for the future generations, and we have to sacrifice the blood of the current generation in order to satisfy these gods of central banking. We weren't intended to be under this kind of a trap. It is a trap. There isn't really much of a way out of it. I think the way out of it is psychological, and spiritual and characterological. We have to build character. We have to build the Holy Spirit. We have to abide by the Ten Commandments and every other command that's in the Bible proper. I use the term proper because there's some things that people pull from that don't seem to be proper. And there's secondary things which we don't have to agree upon, but we need to relax enough to allow the other guy to have his own view and live his life the way he wants. I did not review my own video. I was going to do that before I produced any more videos. I did produce 2 videos in the meantime before I realized that I had this warning. It wasn't a strike, but they said I wasn't going to get a warning again. At the next time it would be a strike. And it's 2 strikes and you're out. No 3 strikes. They don't play fair. Remember, they dictate the rules. They're dictators. There's also treasonous activity with that organization, in my opinion, and it needs to be investigated. And you people who think, well, my party's in charge, there doesn't need to be any investigation, you want to get nuked? I hope you like getting nuked. Because in the apocryphal books, 2 Esdras, 1 Esdras, which is also another name for Ezra, from my reading of it, we get nuked. From my reading of the Old Testament, we get nuked. Go look up that stuff for yourself and read it. You'll read about an eagle. And my take on it is it gets burnt from one end to the other end. Now, my thinking originally was that it gets embarrassed, maybe. Or it gets traumatized. It gets exposed from one end to the other end. But now I'm thinking our goose is cooked. These people, the neocons that are running the show, with this demented guy at the helm, which you allowed to be elected because you didn't play fair. I mean, you're in this, in case you're wondering, most of you people who did this to us are in the cities that will get nuked. Oh, and in case you're wondering, there was a guy from the future who time traveled back to the year 2020, and he was on the internet for a period of time in the chat rooms. He was a social psychiatrist sent back from approximately the year 2036, as I recall. His name was John Titor, or Tudor, and he gave us a vision of the future. And he also told us that the Constitutionalists would be losing this war. Well, what he did is he told us that Russia nuked the United States. And people got upset hearing that. And he said, no, it's not what you think. It was actually an act of mercy and sacrifice because the Russians knew, as a result of that strike, that they were going to get annihilated in return. But they also knew that if they didn't stop this on our continent, that they were going down anyway. And that's the way it looks to the people who used to be considered our allies. So now we're going after Russia. China's trying to be diplomatic about it. They're going to join Russia. India actually stated their support in a fairly neutral way, but the Biden administration totally, well, what can I say? It's a bully administration. They totally threatened India, and the Biden administration has made it clear, the neocons have made it clear, once they're done with Russia, then they're going after China. It's insane. Then when they're done with China, they're going after India. I don't like that. I don't like it at all. My Indian friends, I can see how distraught they are because they get better news than you or I do. They don't get this censored propaganda BS from the mainstream liars. Oh, and in case you're wondering, that guy Bill O'Reilly talking about the greatest presidents ever, he's Mockingbird Media. He's a specialized hitman, specialized psychological operations. He pulls out some pretty heavy stuff. And his buddy, that golden boy, that blonde-haired guy that wears sneakers along with his suits, Glenn Beck, he's another one of those. top-level assailants working for the CIA's Mockingbird media. One of them went after 9/11 truthers, and the other one went after the birthers. So they proceeded to mock those groups from their positions, which was the hit job, the psychological hit job, the psyop they pulled off on us. That sort of stuff paralyzes us. What we need to agree upon about things like 9/11 is a crime occurred. It remains unsolved. And the evidence has been destroyed to a large part. That, right there, my fellow Boy Scouts, is what we need to agree to. You know, we used to pledge that way. Remember that? Before the gays took over and the Boy Scouts went down. The girls took over too before the gays did. I loved Boy Scouts. It was great. Girls don't belong in Boy Scouts. Boys don't belong in Girl Scouts. Okay, I had a passing fantasy for the moment, I admit it. Well, boys and girls, remember some of those oaths that we took when we were younger. And remember that we called ourselves boys even when we were men. And I guess right now we need to become boys again. We need to become little children, innocent and curious, searching the scriptures and searching the news from abroad in order to discern what the truth is. Now, I listen to a group of guys. There's two main guys, Alex and Alexander, the Duran, D-U-R-A-N. You search it on YouTube, you'll come up with the Duran band game first, but then you'll come up with those fellows. And they have incredible analyses. I highly regard them, and I suggest listening to them. You can tell them Dr. Kent sent you. That would be nice. Oh, yes, my name is Dr. John Taylor Kent. My friends call me Doc Kent. Family calls me by my middle name, Taylor. I kind of like the ring to the name John Taylor. I'm going to try to duck and cover as much as I can. But I do want to tell you I attended a Republican meeting at Sun Lakes, and I'm going to cover that in a separate video. Key features in that. There was something else I wanted to tell you about, but it slipped my mind, which is okay for right now. I was going to tell you about law enforcement. And law enforcement's got problems right now. And that Republican group down there in Sun Lakes has problems too. The problem is that they're so brainwashed and so rigid in their outlook that there's no flexibility, so they can't learn new tricks. They're too old. Those old dogs are too old to learn new tricks. Oh, talking about old dogs, I got a young dog here. Oh, she's precious. My God, she's so sweet. Really good temperament. I mean, she just wants to be loved on and pet. Here's the amazing thing. I was told she was 4 months old. Not so. She's over 5 months old. And guess what her birthday is? Forgive me for tearing up. She was born the same day I had to put my big boy down, Diesel. This one was meant to be. I'm looking for another job. I think I'm going to get myself trained up in one of these security operations using dogs. I think I can do that. I think I can work. I need to work because this money is becoming worthless by design. It will never go all the way away. It's going to have some value. But the idea of reducing it is it's done purposefully. Oh, by the way, that guy, that president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was president for 4 terms, he was about the worst president we ever had. He gave us social insurance, which became Social Security, which is unconstitutional. And as much as the elderly people like me scream about it, the fact is that that money, if it's really put away in the trust they started at the same time, if it's hidden there, then we're each worth probably $6, $7, $8 million apiece. Now, would you rather have that measly little $1,000, $1,500 a month Social Security check? Or would you like to be handed your $8 million all at one time? I know what I would choose. They pulled a bunch of deceptions on us, and they did a lot of sleight of hands, and they didn't inform us. We didn't have any informed consent. And as a result, it's total fraud. There's no statute of limitations on fraud. So anytime you folks want to look into it, you can. This nation has done so much for me that I'm going to continue to be a good little boy, and I'm going to pay into it because they have literally done so much for me. It's not my money anyway. It even says that in the Federal Reserve notes. It's not our money, folks. It's the Federal Reserve's money. They own it. We don't own it. And you should rightfully regard it as debt rather than as money, as Professor Carroll Quigley wrote in his book, Tragedy and Hope. Carroll Quigley was in support of the New World Order. He championed their ideals. He was all for them coming through. I don't think he realized it's a bunch of devils and the devil's children, literally, hybrids that are behind it. Now, before you get accusing me of racism, I want you to know that we're all mixed today. We are all pretty much hybrids. And so let me take this to a little deeper understanding. Some of us have got fallen angel, fallen angelic, satanic DNA in us. Some of us have got other kinds of blood in us. We're mixes. Now, I'm not going to tell a person that they have no right to exist because they're a mix. I mean, that'd make me a real bad jackass as far as I can tell. How do you tell a man he doesn't have a right to exist? Natural law dictates a few things. The first thing it dictates is a man's got a right to defend his life. That's how come we get the Second Amendment in part. And the First Amendment also. The fact is, none of us knows what we really are. I don't trust these genetic banks because the bad guys are in charge of those norms, so I don't trust them. I don't think they're going to be scientific. I think they're going to be sabotaged. And you hear about those tests of people coming back with all kinds of mixtures in them that surprise them. Well, I don't think they're getting honest results, but I think what they're doing is collecting the DNA for nefarious purposes. So I don't recommend you do that. However, every child born in this country since 1965, they've taken the vials of the blood and sent that into Control Central. So all of you folks born after 1965, I think that was the right year. The practice has been to give your DNA blood sample to Control Central, so you are indeed marked. Those that are my age, we aren't necessarily in there, but when we get blood work done, have hospital work done, sure as hell they'll take it and put it in then, I believe. Anyhow, some of them I think is a little out there, and I don't really want to take you folks out to the edges anymore. The two videos that I recorded were rather long. I was quite emotional, and just for that reason, I'm not going to bother with those. I'll leave those archived up, and I'll try to review those someday and see if maybe I want to release them. At this point in time, I'm limiting myself to drinking distilled water. I've got my minerals, raw materials from Dr. Tennant. Those are protective and nutritional. I will continue to use distilled water for me and my puppy. I'm not even using Berkey filtered water. I'll continue using those until I can ascertain and get a good, strong, solid evidentiary call on the nature of the stuff that's ailing us. I remember in the Bible many times it's the land of bitter waters is mentioned. I believe that those lands are our lands today. These are the lands of bitter waters. I also remember the passages that say that children will play with the asp and the adder and the cockatrill. They won't harm them. It's kind of a weird thing. It doesn't make much sense. It doesn't make much good common sense. But it's in there, and I'm thinking we might be living in that particular time. I wish that I had hung out with the Hopi, but I didn't, because those guys handle snakes all the time, and one of their ceremonies is they dance with the rattlesnakes and they throw them out among themselves, and they let themselves get purposely bit by these reptiles, and they dance away the venom. I don't know if the Hopi would want to tell an outsider exactly what they're doing, and they wouldn't. I just don't know. The Navajos don't like the Hopi very much, and since I work for the Navajo, and I've got Navajo friends, Dene is what they call themselves. I just wonder. Now, what am I? I'm an Israelite. My buddy Andy Kroger, he preferred to call himself a Christian Israelite. I think that was a good name. I got other buddies that tell me that there never should have been such a thing as the Christian religion called Christianity. I've sorted that out, and I've come to understand why they say that. I'll do that in another video. I'll make that commentary and not Bible reading, but we're going to go through Bible reading, and I'll try to avoid the temptation to stop and pontificate about what it means. But I do feel that you need a little bit of acceleration at this point. So, don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for anything. Do your own research. Do your own study. Come to your own conclusions. Remember that when the Spirit is building within you, the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, will show you. And it comes to you in a different way than it comes to me. And so when we have these ideas that seem kind of wild, the best thing we can do is to hang out and talk to one another. And we have to keep open minds. We can't do this dictator stuff that these big tech is doing. You can't do the censorship on each other. You have to allow each other to actually express themselves. And when we do that and brainstorm freely, we come up with alternative paths and alternative ideas that we never thought about. Sometimes we get corrected, sometimes we get reinforced. I need you to read the Bible. You need to read the Bible. That's the only way that America is going to win. Not the only way, but it is the way. It is the faith of our fathers. We must adhere to it and follow the lessons and the guidance that's in there. I don't know exactly what it is you need to know today, and I don't really feel like going much further right now. We're at almost a half an hour. So I'm going to put this up so you'll understand what I'm going through, the good news. My little girl, she's quite a girl. She's wonderful. A little on the mouthy side, but you know how puppies are. She already attacked my damn carpet. Wish my housekeeper would get back to work. She gave me a bottle of some spray that kept the puppies from chewing. And I made a mess of things right now, and I really need her help. I need help so badly tomorrow. We're going to go start her training. It's going to be a long drive, but it's going to be worth it because she's trained. I'm not. So will this old dog learn new tricks? By the way, folks, we celebrate the Passover. It is commanded that we celebrate that in perpetuity. Easter was from Ishtar. The Roman Catholic Church kind of gave that to us in 325 AD at the Council of... heck, I can't remember it. I got that stuff at Bible school and at the university, and I just had a conversation with it, and you can see the mind slips a little bit. I'll blame it on information overload. I hope I'm giving you enough information, and I hope this edifies you. Don't let it weaken your hearts. We do know the end of this story. However, this war is by deception. It's very great. The snake people are behind it. The descendants of Cain. There may be other descendants from other offspring of fallen angels as well. So keep an open mind. It's hard to separate them. And one last thing. Don't blame the Jews. They were taken over and misused. My Jewish mother, Beatrice Rose, I miss her dearly. She told me those people over in Israel were crazy. And she also said to me that if people wanted to get rid of the Jews, she said, just leave us alone. Leave the Jews alone. They'll destroy each other. So, family dynamics are family dynamics. My take is that there's some real Israelites in the Jewish population. And that's from my reading in the Bible, in which there is a residue left. The word in the Bible is residue. So go look that word up and you'll find it. We have what's described as, it looks like a nuclear war to me, and that it's only when there's a residue left. In other words, real Israelites, not Israelis, but Israelites. And I'm not saying that an Israeli cannot be an Israelite. I'm saying that the Bible specifies a residue which gives us a distinct probability that some of the Israelis are old stock and true descendants of Israel. And it also promises in that book that Yahweh's going to step in himself and fight like he did in the days of old for old Israel. I don't really want to be in the battlefield, but I sure would love to see him coming up through the ranks with his victory cry and taking care of 85% of the enemy before the main part of us Israelites got there. That's the stories I've been told. That might be just a myth. Please read your Bibles. Please accustom yourself to the name Yahweh. Appeal to Yahweh. And learn the real name of the Messiah, Yahshua, which is not a Jewish word or a Jewish name. And you folks who say there are Judaizers who go about that, no, the name Jesus didn't come about until the Elizabethan era. Error is more like it. And that was when the Society of Jesus was formed with the sole purpose of putting forward the name of Jesus. Now, I will contend that that's psychological warfare because it's a mistake. So you can ask those fellows why they do that instead of the word Yeshua. There are some good Jesuits. I was educated by the Jesuits. And I know there's some not so good ones around them. And I couldn't give you a real good percentage on it, but I would guess that the vast majority, the bulk of them are okay. Maybe 15% of them are not so good. Remember, the Black Pope has an office across from the Vatican, and he's the boss of the White Pope, the guy they put out front. Yeah. The Jesuits were done away with at one point in time, but it looks like when they came back, they took it all over. So what do we call those? Neo-Jesuits? Folks, the Neo-Zionists are putting against each other their enemies. Their enemies being the Christians and the Muslims. So they're doing their best to proliferate, propagate, invigorate that conflict so that we kill each other off. I don't think that's a fair thing to be doing to the rest of the population. What do you think? Zionism, Zionists, Zion, Mount Zion, all meant something good before Theodore Herzl founded that twisted up group. And they abandoned him, by the way, later on when he didn't prove to be militant enough for them. One thing I'll say about Joe Biden, he certainly knows how to unite a nation. He's united the Russian people. And Putin has been going in soft-handed with a measured hand, hoping that there would be some relief. And China has been recommending to Putin he go in with a measured hand. And in case you're wondering, Russia has had a legal obligation to go in there and correct those errors of that President Zelensky government. Oh, by the way, did you know he was the most highly paid and wealthiest actor on the earth? Yeah. Yep, he doesn't even care about his own boys. He orders them to stay there, and Putin says, withdraw your troops, and they wouldn't withdraw them. They end up getting surrounded. And they didn't get reinforcements. He doesn't care about sacrificing the Azimov Brigade. That's one thing about those types of boys. The people that use them don't give a damn about them. Putin was required under, I think it was the Minsk Agreement or something like that, that was certified under the UN to go in if things were going bad, and they were going bad. It met the threshold. If he went to court, Putin would win. And as far as what you think, yes, it matters. But you're listening to propaganda. You want to get the real news? Ask the Indians that live here among us. They may not want to tell you because they're shaking in their boots. Ask the Chinese. Ask the Russians. At least get another point of view and then make up your mind. I hope you all are not so old that you can't learn new tricks, because we're going to have to learn some new tricks. We need to become flexible in our thinking. I'm going to tell you a lot more about my little puppy dog, because I can't do anything to stop this thing that's going on. It appears to be written in stone, and it's going to happen. It's not going to be good. And you people who think that we can just take on one country after the other, I dare ask you, how about all of those plans to take down 7 nations because of 9/11? Did we take down all 7 nations? No. No. Those guys overstepped their bounds. They got some big egos. They're real proud. They think they can throw their weight around and do anything to anybody. People don't care when they're up against the wall anymore. They just don't care. They know they're going to die anyway. So they'd rather die on their feet than die on their knees. And this neocon, neoliberal, neo-Zionist, United States communist central government is really one of the most wicked governments ever to exist. They have taken our republic away from us. They have stolen all of our money, our real money. They have actually exiled us all to a foreign jurisdiction so that we have uniform commercial code, in effect, not the Constitution. They don't take common law pleadings in court anymore. They take statutory pleadings, and that in itself is a major crime against every man so convicted. Yeah, we got some problems, folks. We really do need to withdraw from across the world, and we need to mind our own P's and Q's. Take care of things at home. My father always said it takes a bigger man to walk away from a fight. That wasn't very good advice for a little boy who's forced to fight. But I realize right now that Putin doesn't have any choice. And Putin would probably withdraw if he could. But as I said, Biden is great for uniting a nation. 85% of the people in Russia are behind Putin, and they're pushing him to go all out and get this thing over with. So Putin has been doing this with a measured hand. And it looked like that was the right thing to do. But now it's not. I mean, all of those atrocities that he's being blamed for, all the slander and libel against him, all those atrocities, they've been hiding the evidence, cleaning it up. Instead, what they should be doing is demanding a forensic evaluations of all these deaths so they can attribute the deaths to the proper cause and the proper culprits. But they're hiding it because they don't want you to know the truth. The truth is the Azov Brigade and other forces inside the Ukraine have been doing this to their own people. Putin's being forced to take a hard line. The country feels an existential threat. So you boys and girls wanted World War III, you're getting it. Now, I think the bigger man should back out, and it should have been the United States of America. At this point, Putin can't back out. This administration has made sure, and that jackass Mr. Sullivan in the administration, he needs to be tried for his treason and suffer the fate of all traitors. These folks are leading the entire world into this world war. Tell you about George Washington's visions next time. Bye-bye.